we're in the warehouse, and so I know it's a little bit harder to hear, and then they're going to be talking over there as well. But first of all, we want to thank you guys for coming. This is actually our first time that we've ever put together workshops for our parents. So it's kind of new to us, but we're all really excited. Over there are the K-1 teachers. So you guys all have K-1 students? Yeah, that's why you're here. So we have Mrs. Williams, Mrs. Robinson, Mrs. Bartz, and Mrs. Culbertson. And then we also have Mrs. Foy, who's going to be teaching basically our lesson today on writing. And she's in the 2-3 block, but we also consider her one of our K-1 gurus as well. Right off the bat, we've handed you guys a couple of handouts. And the first one is this one right here. We were brainstorming ideas on what to do for you guys. And Mrs. Culbertson really liked this idea. And we actually presented this at the Parent Educator Conference. And it was a portfolio, but we made it into a memory book. And the reason that we do this, or that we did this, is that you guys have all these nice projects that you do at home, or you have all the nice projects that you do in the K-1 block, and you think, well, you hang them up on the refrigerator, but then what do you do after that? And we wanted you to have something at the end of the year that's completely connected, but it's an ongoing portfolio of their work. So what we're going to be doing for the next 3 sessions is that we're going to be doing the projects with you and your child. So by the end of the year, you are going to have this total package that you can have of their work. Mrs. Cotton was in my Parent Educator Conference, and she says, these are great ideas. She goes, but I'm going to be honest, I probably won't do them. Because we gave her the book, and we actually gave her this little handout. But it's just like finding the time to do it, and the materials, it's just really hard. But we want to provide that for you. So I think that you're really lucky that you're going to end up having this at the end. So the one thing that we're going to have you guys do at home is like throughout that month, because there is a package or there is a folder for every month. So like we start right here with September. And so what we're going to be doing over here is we're going to be doing this art project with your child. So today they're going to be doing the apple prints. And then right here we always do a writing sample with them. And so today Mrs. Culbertson is going to be asking them what they like about kindergarten or what they like about first grade. She's going to print it out, and then they're going to be coloring this paper. So all of the projects are going to be done here for like 3 months. And then we have like the next date, I think it's in January, I think. We're going to be doing the next 3 art projects and writing samples so that it's going to be done for you. We will have all these die cuts here. So next time you come, you will actually be putting this book together. So that's still you doing it. We're just providing all the work, the labor, and you get to come here and you get to be here with your child. The one thing that we are going to ask is that the whole reason for this is that we want it to be a portfolio. And a portfolio is what they do from the beginning of the year to the end of the year so that you can see progress. So I think almost all of you probably have had your child assessed. And it's interesting because we always have them write their name. And you think, oh, you see them every day and you don't see the subtle changes that they're doing. But if you ask at the end of the year to see their assessment and you see how Lucas wrote his name at the beginning compared to how he wrote it at the end, you're like, oh my goodness. Like you don't see that because you see them every day and you don't see how it changes. So that's kind of why we want this. So what we're going to ask is if you can just keep like a folder or just anywhere where you can do it. Take maybe their favorite math paper that they did that month. She's going to be talking about writing. Take one of their writing samples. Take maybe one of their social studies. Or maybe when they're in their Discovering Great Artists, maybe that goes in here if it will actually fit, not fall out. But they do things like in baking in a jar or storybook cooking where they have different things that you can add in here so that when they're older, they can go back and look. And when I say that, this happens to be my daughter's. And when she was in kindergarten, I have twins. So I actually helped make this with their teacher. So we ended up making 40 of these. So this was like 10 years ago. And it's still put together really nice. Now I have taken a lot of things out of here, like I just took this out. But she's a sophomore, and so it was kind of cute to go back and look and see, what she did in kindergarten. So you will forget, and it just gives you a nice collective way to store your samples. And again, when you put your first writing sample in here compared to your very last writing sample, you're going to be amazed at the growth. Okay, does anyone have any questions or anything? Okay, so I'm just going to go through every page with you so that you're aware. And then I did give you this so that you can be talking to them. It's just a copy of each of the different pages. And there's always, it tells you what the writing topic's going to be, so you can actually help your child before they get here to go through what are the questions that Mrs. Culbertson's going to ask, so they can be talking about it. So the first one is just, they're going to be making the apple print today. They're also going to be doing their pumpkin for October. And they're also going to be going ahead and making their turkey. Now their turkey today is going to look a little different because Mrs. Williams really liked the idea of using their hand. So today we're going to change this up and they're going to be using their hand print. So again, those are the three things. They're also going to be asking them for the writing if they dress up for Halloween or maybe what they like about fall, because I know not everyone dresses up for Halloween, so we're going to ask them what they like about fall. And then for November, what are the three things that they're thankful for? And then the next time that you guys come back, we'll end up doing a holiday Christmas one. And if for some reason, if you look ahead and you're uncomfortable, like maybe you don't celebrate Christmas, let us know and we will change the art projects. That's not a big deal at all. And then we're going to end up doing one for January, which is snowmen. And this is a great time you can look ahead and maybe you guys like read a lot of books about snowmen. There's some really cute like snowmen, and I can't think of like it right now, like Snowman Dancing is a cute little book. There's some really fun books you can read. And then we're right here, Mrs. Williams is like, why are we doing this? It's because it's President's Day, so we actually combined the two different holidays, Valentine's Day with President's Day. Then we have our leprechaun for March. Then we go into the holidays, so it's like the Easter. And then the last one we do is just their handprints for spring. Another thing we're going to hopefully have you guys do is take pictures along the way. So at the end, there will be a page that they can have pictures on here. Again, it's culminating. And again, this is 10 years old and it still looks pretty good. And we do go through it. And I think it was this one. I'm going to go back. It asked her, like, says, when I grow up, I want to be, and she wanted to be a policeman, or policewoman, I should say. So it was kind of cute because that's not what she wants to be now. So it, like, not even close to that. But it's just fun. Another thing too is that I'm a big proponent on really coloring in everything. I know maybe your child's not wants to do that, but encourage, because we're going to let you go over there later today and that they can start coloring. We don't want anything taken home. We're going to actually house everything. So it's like you come here, do the stuff, go home, and we will keep it. So next time, for like the first little like 15, 20 minutes, you'll get to mount stuff. But we want you to actually participate in actually helping them do their projects too. So again, so when you're all finished, you will have at the end of the year this portfolio. So I mean, I'm actually excited for you guys. Okay, anybody have any questions? Okay, so because we also feel it's important that our kindergarten, the first graders, learn to write really well. Mrs. Foy, we're going to consider her our guest speaker for today, does a great job in really explaining how to get your child to write. And I think that's probably one of the weaknesses for most of us, is like really teaching that, and she does a fabulous job. So everyone, this is Mrs. Foy.
Thank you. If you've had this class at the beginning of the year, this is just a brief overview. It's not an hour long or anything. I'm just going to quickly go over it so I can get you started, but you're also always welcome to call me if I've gone too fast and you don't really understand later on. So if you look at this paper, you know, we sometimes think kindergartners or first graders really can't write, but they really can, but they do a lot of phonetic writing. So what the first thing I want you to do is find this paper right here. It has some steps on it, and if you want to, you can make notes on it. I have 10 steps that I follow when I teach writing. Now there's all kinds of different writing. There's handwriting, copy work, dictation, and those all have purposes and are good, but today I'm teaching you how to build writers that are independent, they're not intimidated by writing, and they can be creative. So it's just a different technique. So the very first thing on your step is to find your student's level, and you can look at this later and figure it out, but this gives some stages of writing, and all kids are at different levels. Some kids might be at stage 1 where they mainly just imitate writing. Maybe they draw a few pictures. So that would be your first step when you want to assess where they're at, and it's good to know so that you're not expecting too much or too little out of them. The next step when you're getting ready to write with your kids is to pick a topic, and topics are sometimes hard to come up with. That book would be great because you could maybe incorporate what you're going to do in that book for your topic, but I always pick things like things we've been studying, things we enjoy doing together. So brainstorm with your kids their topic and kind of write some stuff down, because later that'll give them the vocabulary for them to use in their writing and ideas. Step 3, and I'm trying to go slow because I get nervous and go fast. Step 3 is the key to everything in kindergarten is to model it. So what I do is I model my topic, and I actually do my own writing for them. And I say, okay, let's think of what we want to write about today, and we brainstorm, and then I already came up with a topic, but I put what did we like doing the most this summer, and we came up with going to grandma's swimming. And so when I'm modeling my topic, I just write words and stuff like I said. And then the next step is to make a writing plan. And a writing plan is the equivalent of an outline for a kindergartner or a story web. So I model it and I say, okay, remember we went to grandma's and here we are jumping off the diving board, and here's grandma over here, and this is a good opportunity just to throw in other things like story structure, the setting, was there any problems that day, the plot. Who are the characters? Well, we're the characters. And so I just do those kind of things, and they're getting more out of the lesson than they even know about. And then after I draw my picture, I say, and sometimes I draw a completely different picture, like a picture of my dog. And I say, does my topic match my picture? Does my picture match my topic? And you want them to know that this is their plan for writing, so they need to match. So sometimes I draw a picture that doesn't match just to throw them off to see if they remember that. And then the next thing you do is you model the writing. So, and this is really important because you want to engage the student while you're doing it and actually make mistakes and have them help you correct it. So I start my writing. Okay, so I'm going to write about going to grandma's. I like going swimming. At we jumped, I'll write fast, off the diving board. Okay, so I got my sentence up there, and then I say, okay, help me read my sentence. So we go back together. I like going swimming. Is there anything wrong with my sentence? What did I do wrong? Oh, and then they may give you the answer. I didn't capitalize my I, because capitals always, or beginning a sentence, always start with capitals. Okay, I like going swimming at. What's wrong there? What could I do to make that more of a better sentence? And you say spacing. Okay, so I'll put a space there. So you just do that to your whole sentence. You talk about periods and capitals, and until you've corrected the whole thing with them. The next step is to check, and that's what we did. And then the last step on that little part is to erase your work, because if you don't, they'll just copy what you wrote. And you don't want them to have the spelling and to have exactly your sentence. So then you erase it, and then you encourage them to write their own story. And you try to make it as independent as possible. So if they say, in the beginning you'll have to give them a little bit of help, but make it limited and make them responsible for their own writing. So if they say, I don't know how to spell at, well, what letters do you hear in at? Did you hear the letter A? And they'll say, yeah, so you put an A. And if they, in the beginning, they may only just put one letter for at, or they may write play like that. And that's fine. The most important thing is that they write it and they know what it says. So you encourage them. And then if they say to you, if you've been studying sight words, and they say, How do you spell the? And I'll say, is the one of your sight words? And they'll say yes. And I'll say, well, look at the sight word chart. What does the start with? It might be under the yellow row. And so then it redirects them to find the answer themselves. And eventually they won't ask you as much, and they'll know where to look for answers. Another way is to have an alphabet chart or a word wall. And if you've been studying something like maybe the word grandma or jump, you can say, hey, it's on the word wall. Remember we wrote that on the word wall last week? See if you can find it. It starts with a J, something like that, so that you're making them responsible. I think I skipped that step. The last thing is, and this is the hardest for teachers and parents, is to accept what they write and not to mark it up, because that takes the stress out of the anxiety out of it for them. And then they know that it's not going to be wrong, because they don't know how to spell yet. They don't know where things go yet. And if you mark it all up, they're not going to want to do it. So you just accept what they wrote. I always ask them to read it to me, so that you know that that's really what they meant by that. And then sometimes I'll write exactly what they said on the back, so that later you can go back and you can say, oh, remember when you wrote this? And just like Monica said, by the end of the year, you're going to see such a difference, because they're just going to grow and grow and grow. And all these things you're working on will come into play later. So you don't have to worry about them at the beginning. It's just a developmental thing. And then later on, you are going to start grading, but the key to it is you tell them, today we're going to work on periods, and I am grading you on periods only. So when they write, they know what you're going to grade them on. This is later, after they get used to writing. You grade and give them a score for periods. Did you put all the periods where they were supposed to go? And then maybe 2 or 3 weeks later, you say, okay, today we're going to grade on periods and spacing. So they know ahead of time what you're going to grade on, and you grade on only those 2 things. And you just keep adding and adding until they have all these skills. So I found these, actually a parent gave them to me, and I don't know if it's what you're talking about, but these are great because each paper is a writing paper, and right down here it has a rubric, and it says periods. So you could give them this one, and I gave you guys copies of that. And this week we're working on periods, and it has the rubric. The next time it works on periods at the end and capitals at the beginning. And so you can build on that. This is when you need an assessment. This isn't for this. This is like their creative writing book or something. And it keeps going until you have all these skills built in, and you just introduce them as you think they're ready. If they bomb on one, then maybe you need to go back and do this one again. So I thought that was really great to go with the writing program. And I gave you the white one so you could make masters. This was just an example of how they made them colored and pretty. What else was I going to tell you? Oh, the last thing, sometimes I would do this in my classroom. I'd have this target board, and if I said, my target today is that you have the correct spacing and periods. And then when I got those papers in, I'd say, did you make your target? Did you do all your, like I say, 80%? And if they did, they got to go on the target board, and they used a little dart, and they made the target board because they hit their target. So that, just little ways to motivate them and draw attention to their work and make it more meaningful. So she thought it would be good if you knew that, so that you can maybe save those samples that they did for the book and have some meaningful work in it.
I just thought about this. We have like cardstock, and if you take cardstock and you run it through the laminator, it turns into a whiteboard, so you can use it at home. So if you know that we have laminating that we can do for you. So if you ever wanted that, so that they could have this at home, your vis-a-vis pen, and they could write on it, run it through the water, use a baby wipe, it comes right off, and you can constantly use, and you're not having to always use paper, and you can talk about words, all of that. So just know that cardstock works just as well for a whiteboard. Another thing, does everyone here know about our mesh drawers? Is there anyone who doesn't know? Okay, good. I don't know if are they called journal jump starts? Is that what they are, Mrs. Stratton? Okay, well in our drawers, that is so true. We do have like journal jump starts, or that, like you'll say for October or November. And you know what, look in and it might be, so look in our English drawer, the E drawer, and look, I think it might be the first or maybe the second drawer. that's where you're going to find the whole pack, and of course you can take it, and if we run out, we can make you one for you. But again, our measures, there's so much there. If your child is in kindergarten, at this point, they should be able to know the word I, see, and my, and I think like. So right now, they could already start forming that sentence, I like my, or I see my. And so right there, they can start the writing process. And then the last thing is for your child's in first grade, I'm almost sure they have daily writing prompts. That's part of a package. And if you don't have that, make sure you get that from us as well. So does anyone have any questions? Okay, well, we want to thank you guys for coming, because this was all brand new to us. Something that we're trying, and hopefully each time it gets a little bit better. But again, we want you to walk away, with a little bit of idea on writing, but also that you're going to walk away by the end of the year with a writing or a whole portfolio that you guys can put together for your sample. So again, thank you guys for coming. And at this time, we're just going to have you guys take your stuff, and then you can join your child at whatever table they're at. You can help them with their projects. And again, do not take anything home. We're going to house everything for you. You just get to come, participate, have fun. What? Yeah, I'm going to frisk you. Okay, again, thank you guys all for coming. All right, thank you.
We're going to go up high. Here we go. All right, look at your awesome turkey.
Now look at this.
Now